how to cook different dishes from all over the world, but they're just basic dishes from those countries. So I don't know that it's really like anything special. When are you moving to Georgia, and when will you vote blue in the runoff? I don't know about moving to Georgia. I don't know about that. Can you explain your plans for the stack of window panes? I could use them. So those were in the shop when we got the property. Now, when I, the original plan was I was going to use them in a greenhouse, but it's been a while and I have been pretty preoccupied. How did you and your lovely wife meet? I just said. How can workers unionize? The same way they have throughout history. I mean, there are tried and true methods for this. I would suggest checking out Working Stiff USA on YouTube. What's your favorite holiday food? Those ridiculously bad for you, over-processed, sugary Christmas trees from Little Debbie. Do you trim your own beard? And if you do you have any tips for someone who hasn't and is tired of waiting to go to the barber? I do. Get a good wireless trimmer and just do it and understand it's going to grow back right away. I mean, my beard grows very quickly, so if I mess up, if something happens, it's fixed in like 2 days because it grows back. More questions about the windows. Did you win a YouTube plaque? I got one at 100,000 subscribers. I think the next one isn't until there's 1 million. I don't know. Maybe there's one for 500,000. My husband wants to know how the birds get into your garage. So the where I normally film is a shop. It's freestanding. It's a freestanding building, and it is designed to let heat out. So there's a gap that birds or squirrels or snakes or whatever often come in. It's like Noah's Ark out there at times. That's why we don't live stream out there. It's so far away from the house the Wi-Fi doesn't reach. So, what is your favorite animated feel-good movie? Right now, Frozen 2 is one that I'm watching a lot because of my daughter. But in general, I like almost all of them. They can help you get in a mood that is better than the one you were in. So, corded or cordless power tools? Cordless. Do the video wrapped in Christmas tree lights, and they have to be on. I wish I had seen this earlier. I would have done that. Growing up, what was the first T-shirt you went and bought for yourself? Not bought by a parent. I don't know, but probably like a Nirvana T-shirt or something like that. How often do your kids respond with, "It's just a thought," more than I would like them to? And generally it's when they've got me and they know they've got me. Do you read all of your Patreon and Twitter messages? What is the best way to message you? The fastest way to message me is via Twitter. However, it may get missed. Between Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and Patreon, no joke, I get 400 messages a day. I try to get through as many of them as I can. I can't get through all of them. Patreon, I sit down about once a week and try to answer as many of them as I can. So there's dedicated time for that. Everything else is hit and miss. Twitter is something that I use in my downtime. So it may be that it's easier to reach me through that. Once it's safe to travel again, is there any place special you want to go? All over the United States. Everywhere. I do not like not traveling. That is the one thing that is truly starting to grate on my nerves about all of this. So, can you please show us a better view of your t-shirts in your videos? I've tried to figure out a way to do it without making it weird. Standing further back, it messes up the entire framing, and it doesn't look right. Stepping back in the middle of it, if I remember to do it, sometimes I do, or I will raise up so you can see the bottom text. But on the second channel, the framing will be different, and it'll be shot from different angles inside the shop when we're there, so you'll get to see more of it. And some of it is full length, so you'll be able to see some of the shirts. Let's see. Do you have a favorite sweet for your stocking stuffer? You know those like horrible trash chocolate Santas? I actually really like those. Or the ones that taste like Nestle Crunch bars. How much do you love your beard and why is it so magnificent? What really makes you laugh? I've heard a snicker, but never a belly laugh. My kids make me laugh a lot, all the time. Why don't kids understand that Santa prefers tacos? We haven't educated them properly. What's your favorite kind of milkshake? The Oreo one at Sonic. How do I explain to a right libertarian, yellow and black, that his position is self-defeating? So when you get somebody on the right who is willing to embrace anti-authoritarianism, asking them to give up their economic system at the exact same time may be a little much. It might be better to try to move them to a centrist market type, but not outright capitalism, and go from there. You are asking a lot for people to reject the idea of the state and the economic system they're familiar with at the same time. Some people need more stepping stones than that. As far as explaining that it's self-defeating, just carry it to its logical conclusion. Eventually, power, wealth will consolidate. And you can try to provide examples of that happening, but it doesn't matter what you say. This person will probably say that's not capitalism, that's corporatism. And technically, that's actually a true answer in most cases. At the same time, I don't know that it would vary the outcome. Do this video in Santa cosplay. Do you have... I don't want to be ignorant syllabus books podcast. Okay, so I put something together on Amazon, and then some news broke, and I didn't want to use Amazon. I'll find another way to put that together. What do you see being the biggest benefits of artificial intelligence and machine learning in war? Okay, so I've heard a whole lot of benefits. I think it's people looking for benefits because it is terribly efficient, which is generally a bad thing. I think the main benefit would be that theoretically there would be less civilians injured. But I would say that over time, the true benefit would be that it is going to become so costly that nation states won't want to engage in it. Kind of that mutually assured destruction thing from the Cold War. Do you enjoy hunting? Not really. I'm like that guy from the Redneck Comedy Tour. It is really early, really cold, and I do not want to go. When I was younger, I did. but it definitely lost its appeal to me. Is that a metal roof? Yes. Can we see it from the outside? How do you like it? It withstood Michael. I mean, there's not much of a stronger endorsement than that. It withstood a Category 5 hurricane. Dress like Santa. All I want for Christmas is a Bo video about how Moana is the greatest Disney princess. She's not a princess, she's a daughter of the chief. Okay, there's breaking the law, breaking the only law imposed by the state to solve a food insecurity disaster kind of seems like your bag. Yeah, that is totally on brand for me. Yeah, that's a video that's going to get made. That'll happen. Are you in favor of abolishing political parties? Yes, once the average voter is more willing to keep an eye on their rep. Tom Hanks versus Denzel Washington. Who's the better actor? Depends on whether you want a good guy or an anti-hero. Good guy is obviously Tom Hanks. The anti-hero is Denzel Washington. I as far as better actor, I would suggest it is harder to pull off a role like Man on Fire than a lot of Tom Hanks's roles. And just so you know, Man on Fire is a true story. Happened in Italy, though. Anyway. So I would say, I guess Denzel Washington, better actor. Let's see. Lots of questions about my t-shirts. Do you watch sports? If so, what are your teams? I will watch a game socially. I don't really follow sports. I owe some loyalty to the Gators. Do you condition your beard? No. Can we see your dogs more? Yes. Try to figure out a way to do that. Introduce us to your pets, which include the kinds that live in barns. That's going to happen eventually. We'll maybe do something on horseback. Tell us your celebrity crush. Oh, that just seems like a bad idea. Let's see. A time I got in trouble that wasn't... Okay. A time I got in trouble. I was sitting... Okay, so my wife's pregnant, and I don't remember what it was that she wanted, but it was at Walmart, and I had to go get it, and for some reason, the store was closed. I think there was actually a protest earlier in the day there. And I'm sitting outside waiting for them to open because I know it's going to be relatively soon, and a cop walks up and demands my ID. I'm sitting in my car. And he's like, I need to see your ID. And I'm like, no, you don't. And he's like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, no, you really don't. And we have a back and forth for a few moments. And he's like, you don't want to go to jail over this. And I'm like, you don't know that. I really might. You know, I've got a whole bunch of kids and a pregnant wife. I could totally use a good night's sleep right now. And at this point is when the sergeant walks up, who had met me working, covering the protest over John Crawford. And he kind of pulled the cop away. But that was probably something that would have turned ugly at some point. Give me your hope and dreams for 20 years from now. I want to run a facility like Highlander Folk Academy, like the Highlander Folk School in Tennessee. And that's what I would like to do. That wasn't personal. That was about the nation. Who is president? Don't know. How's the racial divide? In 20 years, I would hope a whole lot better. Healthcare, it's the United States, so we probably still won't have it. Immigration, I don't think we have a choice on this one. I think climate migration is going to force us to change our views on it, and we will become more accepting, or we will end up being a country that is sanctioned. Boxers or brief boxers, basic IFAC suggestions. That's individual first aid kit. Things that may or may not be in yours, just always make sure you have a tourniquet, a good one. One of the little, the black nylon ones with the spinny handle. And then I would maybe chest seals, and I don't know if it's a medical device or not, so I don't know if you can get them, but chest decompression needles. And if you have one, make sure you know how to use it. Don't just get it and stick it in your bag and not know what you're doing. Definitely go through whatever certification process it takes for your use of that to be legal, but that is something that it's one of those things that if you don't have it, there's a negative outcome. So those would be things that I would look into, but I'm not sure if the decompression things are medical devices that are regulated or not. You'd have to look into that. Which of the 50 United States do you think is in general most in line with the community's values, the most actually progressive leftist state, as much as we might even have something by that description? Would depend on what you mean by leftist. Depending on whether you mean the government or the people. Here in this part of Florida, as red as it is, the individual person behaves in a very leftist manner. Although they probably all have bumper stickers about how much they dislike socialism, the way they actually behave is something else. As far as the government, maybe Massachusetts? I don't know. What inspired you to be the Powerhouse the Powerhouse Journalist you are today? Yeah, I don't think that's an accurate description at all. I think that I take a lot of my influence from Orwell, Thompson, Hunter S. Thompson, people like that. People who used fiction to get to truth in their journalism. Do your kids help out with some of your mutual aid? How much do you recommend kids be involved in direct action? Depends on the type. It depends on the type. If it is something where you are out doing something that is objectively good and will not run afoul of law enforcement, sure, bring your kids. If not, then don't. My kids do go with me at times. In fact, there's a video called A Tale of Two Neighborhoods. My kids were with me through that entire story. You can say you say you can go without sleeping. Is this a technique learned to best utilize time, or are you one of those people that can live off of a couple of hours? I've always been able to not sleep a lot. I've never actually required a lot of sleep, but as I get older, it's even less. I honestly don't think it's a technique. I think it's like PTSD. I don't think it's a good thing. I'm sure it will catch up with me at some point. Hope this isn't too serious. Favorite gun? The whole community has changed a lot since I carried or owned. I'm kind of stereotypical. let's see, an older white guy from the South. Yeah, I carried a 1911. I was a big fan of the USP and its big brother as far as larger stuff. I was a fan of the MP5, a real big fan of the K version. I think as far as fun, I really liked the L1A1. I wouldn't want to carry it. I wouldn't want to actually use it in any kind of situation where it's designed to be used, but it's a very unique, fun weapon to shoot. So. When the Rona era is over, where would you like to go on vacation and why? Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico. My wife hasn't been. And yeah. Since you mentioned jaywalking in a recent post, perhaps an explainer. That's a good video that not getting into now, but that's a good video idea. Do you have or have you had a motorcycle? I do not, because I'm one of those people that tends to get lost in my own thoughts at times, and that doesn't lend itself well to riding a bike. I can ride, but I'm a menace. I shouldn't. How would you define healthy masculinity? Years ago, I had an older Japanese man explain an art concept to me. I have a video on it. I'll try to find and put below. And I think that's a good way to look at it. It's understated, subtle, imperfect. I'll find the video. Do you have a blooper video? I've put a couple on Twitter over the months or years or whatever it is now. Normally it's when I get fired up and some language slips out. At some point, maybe we'll start saving some of those to put them together on a reel in one video. But as it is, once I'm done recording, I don't save them. So the outtakes, they're gone forever. With the clothing industry typically having horrible conditions for workers, why don't you get your merch from a place which is open about where they get their clothing? My understanding is that they get it from Tennessee. My understanding is that they're a very ethical company. If you know something I don't, please let me know. That's surprising. So yeah, definitely, if you know something about them that I don't, let me know. If you were president, what would your main priority or priorities be? Foreign policy, immigration, things like that. Shifting our role in the world from being the world's policeman to being the world's EMT, downsizing the military, stuff like this. And I know most people would want to focus on domestic issues first. I would point out that if we focus on changing our role overseas, there's going to be boatloads more money. And we can reprioritize a lot of resources. So I think that would need to be curtailed first. So that's where I would probably start. I'd like to hear about the connections between video content and your wearing of Beatles t-shirts. Normally when I'm wearing a shirt from a band, there is a connection to a specific song that they have done in the video, not necessarily the shirt or the band name. The Beatles are a little bit different because a lot of times I will be talking about something from the United Kingdom, and I have a Beatles shirt that has a Union Jack on it. Request for channel recommendations. I will set up the channel recommendations for on YouTube, so you guys can click the tab and see the ones that I listen to, because there's a whole bunch out there that don't get the attention they should. Like, people are mentioning Ed Trevor's because, yeah, but there's a whole bunch of people like that I think y'all would like, but because of their appearance or the graphics that they use, you'd probably skip right over them. Kind of like with me initially, people look at me and they're like, yeah, this guy is about to say some racist stuff, And there are people who have that visual appearance, or not necessarily that one, but have some other stereotypical visual appearance that people may just skip right over them because of that, and they have a lot of good information. How long have you had the beard? Off and on, like forever. I think the last time I had a total shave was in like 2008. Can we acknowledge that not all military members are heroes? Not all need to be thanked for their service, and not all are good people. This is coming from someone who served 12 years and is a disabled combat vet. On this channel, I don't think that's a point that needs to be made. I think most people who are watching this completely understand the military is a massive organization, and there are good and bad people in it, and there are outright horrible people in the military. And that's before you even get into politics and the actual outcomes of military service and its use and all of that stuff. Just on a personal level, there's going to be good and bad people everywhere. With whom would you most want to have dinner and a conversation with, living or dead? Marilyn Monroe. How does one build international solidarity? By showing it first. And when it comes to that, the ball is in the court of the people in the United States. I don't know that we do enough to speak out for countries that are victimized by our foreign policy. And I think that would be a good place to start. Is Santa Claus real? Yes. What is Miss Bo's idea of an ideal Christmas dinner spread? Green bean casserole, ham, stuffing, mashed potatoes, pumpkin pie. I think that's it. I don't know. I'm sure there's other stuff that I'm missing. What YouTube creator whom you haven't already collaborated with would you like to work with in the future? Bailey Sarin. In fact, I reached out to her in the middle of October, and if you don't know, she does like a true crime series. That's like around Halloween is like not a good time for her. And then we've had the election since then. So I'm going to have to reach back out. She's somebody I'm dying to know how she does her research. And I think that most people on this channel would enjoy her content. With all the charity work you do, was there ever a time that stands out as a particularly happy moment? Like a moment that reminds you of why you do it? I don't know if this would qualify as charity work in most people's minds. There was a group of people that had recently come to the United States, and I went with these older men, and they were coming from a pretty a country that had seen a lot of trouble. And we went to Walmart, and seeing grown men cry over an abundance of produce was definitely something that will probably always stick with me. What local dish restaurant would you miss the most if you ever moved away from the area? The Donut Hole. They have a plate there called the Diet Plate, which is not for anybody on a diet. It's a giant pile of breakfast food. And McGuire's as well would be another good one. see. If you could make a Curious George episode, what would be the plot, the message, the actual story of Curious George? Because it's awesome. I don't know how you would actually make that into a Curious George episode, but somehow bring the history of that character to life, because when you first see it, you might have a very wrong impression of where it came from. I did, until I found out the story. I did a video on this. I'll try to drop that below too. So if you and Bo's wife are in North Carolina, would you ever consider stopping by for a Caribbean meal? Yeah, always. Oh, this idea. What's your favorite dinosaur? The Scrapadactyl. Yeah, I'm gonna say the raptor, to be honest, and mainly based off of the ideas, the image put forth in the Jurassic Park, where they're really smart. I don't know. Do you put any faith in the character assessments made by your dogs? More than you can possibly imagine. Yeah. Especially Destro. If Destro doesn't like you, I just assume you are a horrible human being. Do you have any animals? I have 2 dogs and a couple horses. So, and I'm actually sure that there's probably other animals that my wife has picked up along the way that I don't even know about. A not safe for work blooper reel. What is the funniest or most embarrassing thing that has happened to you while filming? Recently, and I actually caught it before it went out. Recently, my stomach was growling. I filmed something and my stomach was growling, and I didn't think the mic would pick it up, but it was so loud. like I reshot the video after